All right. Well, good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Speed Traveler Roadshow. This is the Cars and Coffee edition, episode 11, Charlie. And we are available, if you're listening to us live Saturday morning, we are on KHTS Radio, AM 1220, FM 98.1. Of course, available on all your favorite podcast platforms and our YouTube channel at The Speed Traveler and all our social medias at The Speed Traveler. And Charlie, we got a lot to talk about today. I mean, we got F1 news from COTA this past weekend, a lot to digest there, what happened. Our topic car of this episode, and I can't believe it took this long to get here, is the Cadillac. Yeah. You know, I mean, it's a car that we've been involved with our entire lives, and we're gonna be chatting about that. And of course, we're gonna get on our soapbox. We are, for the first time ever, we're gonna kind of get on our soapbox because we have opinions and we don't really voice the hard opinions, and we're going to do that today.
Yeah, we are, and it's really interesting. We and what you're teasing is the fact that we normally talk on the Speed Traveler Roadshow about classic cars and about finding those hidden nuggets that are about to go up in value, fun things to do with your cars, road trips. But last week, it was really almost an aside. We mentioned government mandated government mandates on EVs. And man, people went crazy over that. I mean, no one wants to give up their combustion engine vehicle.
Right. And and I love the fact that that is happening. You know, I mean, we always thought, not always, but in the recent years, we saw, God, is the combustion engine a dying entity, for us to use out on the roads? And, having little Kel on the show, talk about her position. Now, she comes from a car family, so she's going to lean into the combustion engine.
And for those of you who don't know, she's 18 years old. She's very young, a freshman at Pepperdine University, but she gives us a nice, fresh perspective.
Yeah. And I mean, she talked about how a lot of her friends are jumping on the electric bandwagon, if they even drive at all.
Right.
And, but Kelly, obviously, she loves doing her track days, getting out on the track and driving her car hard. Drove her car a little bit too hard a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah.
But before all that, Charlie, why don't we jump into what transpired in Austin at the Formula One race at COTA, the Circuit of Americas?
Yeah, well, it was a great race. The Circuit of the Americas, as you mentioned, the U.S. Grand Prix, an amazing track, 20 corners, 3.4 miles. And for once, Max Verstappen wasn't on the pole.
No.
He exceeded the track limits, which is sort of a new thing the last couple of years in Formula One, that you got to keep the cars in between the white painted lines. And if you go off, you receive a penalty. And sure enough, he received a penalty and had to start the race sixth.
Yeah, and he got a blistering start. The start was amazing, first of all. We had a really interesting front row, and it was great to see the Ferrari find the front of the grid with Charles Leclerc.
Yeah, and Leclerc was only 5/1000 slower in qualifying. So Ferrari was right there.
I mean, that's a decimal point and a lot of zeros.
Yeah, right.
I mean, you can't even blink that fast.
Right.
So it was amazing.
Yeah, but what a cool race. And, it went back and forth. And, Norris in the McLaren, which is our good friend is Zach Brown from McLaren. He's the team principal. We need to have him on one of these days soon.
Gotta have him on.
But it was a great start for McLaren. Lando Norris took the lead. And but slowly but surely, Max wore them all down, didn't he?
He really did, but it wasn't easy. I mean, he had to work for it. He had to work his way to the front. The challenges were there. There were some varying strategies we saw from Mercedes.
Yep.
Even McLaren started to think about adjusting their strategy.
Right.
I really felt that Red Bull actually might have put themselves in a spot of bother because Max started on sticker yellows, the medium tire, went to another set in his first stop for another set of mediums.
So then he had no choice.
He had no choice to finish on the hard tires.
Yep. So for those of you who don't know F1 that well, you have to run on two different compounds if it's a dry race.
Yeah.
Right. That's, it was an interesting race. The Mercedes stopped a little too late in the first stint, and I think that really affected. Fast forward to the end of the race, Max was in the lead But the Lewis Hamilton was hunting him down in the Mercedes.
It was great to see the Lewis of old. I mean, it was an inspired drive, even though, well, he didn't quite get second, but we'll get into that.
Yeah.
But he drove that car to second. And if they had maybe done a little bit different pit strategies, he might have been right on the gearbox of the Red Bull.
Some of the criticism was that Mercedes waited a little too long and he had a 7 or 8 second gap to give up. But overall, it was exciting. He came back. Lewis Hamilton loves that track. He came back hard and he almost took the win. I think he was 1.5 seconds behind Red Bull and Verstappen, which for 2023 is unbelievable.
Yeah, super tight. I mean, normally it's over a pit stop gap between Max and the rest of the field. The Ferraris looked really, really solid. I mean, you knew they were probably going to fade a little bit, and Leclerc, another one of those interesting tire pit strategies, had to go a little bit long. Went a little bit long, and it really kind of hurt the end of his race. He ended up giving up positions to Lando. He was running a solid P1, P2 for the most of the race. He kind of drifted backwards, ended up technically P3 or untechnically P3. And before we get into the penalties, I mean, where the heck did Aston Martin go?
Yeah, right. At the start of the season, I think they were on the podium 5 or 6 straight races with Fernando Alonso, and they brought some upgrades to COTA this weekend, and they were so awful that Fernando Alonso actually went back to his old spec car for the race,
leaving Lance Stroll on the new spec, who. Really, I mean, quite frankly, he drove an incredible race.
Yeah,
I mean,
finished 8th or 9th, I believe.
7th. Well, he finished 9th, but then some penalties pushed him up to 7th.
That's right, yeah.
Which, I mean, honestly, well, I'm just going to jump into those penalties because, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. They tested 4 cars of the 20 cars in the field to see if their legality plank, it's a piece of plywood on the bottom of the car that has to be measure a certain thickness. It can't be worn down any more than, I don't know what the number is, but it doesn't really matter. But they tested 4 cars, and 2 cars were below the minimum thickness and were disqualified from the race. And those 2 drivers were Lewis Hamilton and Charles Leclerc.
Right.
And, and if 50% of the cars that they tested are below the legal limit on the legality plank, I mean, I feel like they should have tested all the cars and either then said, okay, we're going to abide by this rule and disqualify 12 cars, or not, or adjusted the ruling.
Right.
I mean, because it was a sprint weekend. I mean, everyone talked about this, and I bet there's going to be some consternation about this from Mercedes and from Ferrari.
Right.
But it was a sprint race weekend, so they did not have any long runs on Thursday or Friday. They had the sprint qualifying on Friday after 1 practice session, so they did 0 long runs. So they had no idea what was going to happen in the race on Sunday, which is a long run stint. The sprint race is only 30 minutes. I think it was 19 laps.
Yeah. And for those of you who don't know, what we're talking about is Hamilton was disqualified.
Yes.
As was Leclerc from that race. So Hamilton was
second place.
Should have been second.
And third place.
Yeah.
Fourth place. We're disqualified from the race.
Yeah. Pretty amazing.
Yeah.
Pretty dramatic stuff. We're going to talk a little bit. We're going to preview this weekend's race, which is the Grand Prix of Mexico.
And we didn't even talk about Perez and
his.
I don't know. I won't call it an epic failure, but it wasn't a great drive at COTA.
Well, you know what? We'll leave it for the Mexican Grand Prix preview. But I think we should definitely bring up Perez because he's the only Mexican driver in F1. And man, is he not doing well.
No.
And I think it's his contract year. We're going to double check that when we get to the final segment. But what else we got coming up? We're going to talk a little government mandated EVs, and we're going to talk
Cadillacs. Yeah. I'm really excited about talking Cadillac, and I'm really interested to see what how folks respond to the EV mandates. But with that, you're listening to the Speed Traveler Roadshow here on KHTS Radio, AM 1220, FM 98.1, available on your favorite podcast platforms, and always check us out on the social medias and YouTube at The Speed Traveler. Thanks for listening. Hey, travelers, we're back. This is the Roadshow. You're listening to us live on KHTS Radio, AM 1220, FM 98.1, and of course, your favorite podcast networks. And of course, our social media accounts at The Speed Traveler, at The Speed Traveler. Check us out on YouTube and Instagram and all the other social medias. And Charlie, it's soapbox time, something we don't normally do.
We don't normally get on. So by the way, you mentioned our social media. If you go to YouTube and you find the Speed Traveler page, you can see all of our previous shows. So if you're
and
in
some
the
of the cars we talk about, we do a lot of videos on the cars we talk about and stuff like that.
Exactly. But if you're in the market for a classic or exotic car, we've covered Mercedes, we've covered Porsche, we've covered Corvette, we've covered Ferrari. You may want to listen to some of those. I mean, you and I bought and sold a lot of cars. We've made a lot of mistakes before. And our goal here on the Speed Traveler Roadshow is to help you not make so many mistakes.
Right. And our topic car of this weekend, of the show, is the Cadillac. And we've had several of those throughout our lives, whether it was your parents' Eldorado that we borrowed.
Right.
Oh, and I'm sorry, that was Uncle Ralpho's Eldorado, but your mom's Cadillac. I remember great stories about that, and we're gonna do a deeper dive in that in our next segment. But right now, it's really, this is something we don't normally do. We never really wanted to get kind of what I'll say is political, but this is definitely a polarizing subject matter that we definitely have an opinion on.
Yeah, we do. And, a lot of our listeners are people that are interested in classic cars that run on combustion engines. And, we'll talk to them about government mandates for EVs. And they're like, wait, what?
Yeah,
they're going to take away our ability to buy a non-electric car.
Well, that's just it, though. It's these government mandates that are telling us what we have to do. Yep. And, I respect that we need to look at different fuel sources.
Agreed.
I respect that we need to do a better job of treating the environment and treating people and all that great stuff. But I don't think with these EV mandates, we're going to talk about the car, but it goes so much deeper than that. Yeah. California, we want to be, the state wants us to be 2035 off combustion engine.
100% of new vehicle sales.
How are we going to do that? How are we going to afford? How is the common person going to be able to afford? I can't afford an electric car.
Exactly. 60,000 plus. It's really easy.
Well, and it's not just the car.
Right.
It's you got to buy solar panels because there's no reason of plugging this into a grid that can't handle the power. The draw. Yeah. And then what are apartment owners going to do when you have an apartment owner? You're going to call them a 40-unit apartment. How do you convert a 40-unit apartment, a 20-unit apartment, a 10-unit apartment? How do you convert that to be able to support electric cars? And by the way, it's not just the car; it's the stove, it's the oven. Everything needs to be electric.
It's a never-ending battle, and it's one that you need to get behind. And people are really interested in this topic, and it surprised us a little. I mean, we're old car guys, we're race car drivers, we're stunt drivers, and we love buying and selling cars and doing videos about cars. And it's interesting you bring up this topic about EVs and mandates, and people go crazy that don't normally tune in.
Yeah. I mean, it's so funny. Even at the coffee shop, when we start talking about this, since this is Cars and Coffee, we go to a coffee shop, which we do on a regular basis. We naturally just start talking to everyone. And this seems to be one of those conversations that just draws out the volume.
Yeah, exactly. And what's cool about it is like you said, it isn't necessarily, well, it is political, but it isn't a one-sided political issue. I mean, I lean probably a little more right. You might lean a little more left, and we got everybody in between. But if you're a car person, you do not want to see this mandate coming in California in 2035.
Well, think about the family that may be struggling a little bit with income, and they've got 3 kids, maybe no kids. It doesn't matter. Just if you're at an economic place where you're relying on your 30-year-old Toyota because they'll run for 500,000 miles,
right?
And you're relying on that to get to work and back and forth at a very cost-effective rate. And now you're being told you got to sell your $2,000 car and go spend $80,000.
Right?
How's that going to work?
It makes no sense. And I think even on a view from 30,000 feet, if you just think about the concept, is they're mining the raw material in Africa. There's 10-year-old boys mining cobalt in Africa.
I like to call it the new conflict diamond.
It's so true. The blood diamond.
The blood diamond. Where's Leonardo DiCaprio in all this?
Where's the outrage?
Right? Where is the outrage?
And then there's all these horrible things happening in Africa to mine the material. They're putting on the most polluting vehicle in the world, which is a shipping tanker or a boat.
Right.
They're shipping it to China, who's no friend of the USA. They're making it with absolutely no restrictions on the environment whatsoever. Then they're putting it on the most polluting vehicle in the world, a tanker.
Again.
Ship again, and shipping it to the United States. and then putting it in a vehicle. And then when they're done, they don't know what to do with the battery.
Right. You know, and there are people that are coming up with some and brands that are coming up with some interesting solutions, like BMW. We talk a lot about BMW.
Yep.
You know, the spent cells that it have, I think it's just over 30% battery life still. They ship them back to Germany, and they actually put them on a solar grid to charge some of the towns and stuff like that. So interesting solution.
Yeah.
But at some point, we are going to have that tire fire since 1956. What do we do with all of these spent fuel rods effectively?
Right. Yeah.
You know, and there are alternative fuel sources. I'm not against the battery. I'm
Exactly.
not against
That's
the battery.
That's a good point.
But I think we can't just look at that as the only possible solution moving forward. I mean, look, the Navy, the U.S. Navy is working with algae fuels to fuel their aircraft carriers that we see, around the world in the oceans around the world. We've looked at hydrogen. We've looked at ammonia is making strong headways.
The CEO of Toyota just announced an ammonia-powered vehicle, which would cut carbon emissions by 90%. And when you cut we'll get into statistics, but when you cut that carbon by 90%, it's really going to become more clean than an electric vehicle.
Right. And we just have to do a better job of how we mine. You know, it's not going to go away. It's certainly not going to go away in our lifetimes, no matter what mandates come. I mean, it's going to be a revolution. And I hate to use that word, but there will be a revolution. There will be not a revolution, a revolt.
There'll be a revolt.
There will be a revolt against the volt.
I like that. Revolt against the volt.
Order your Speed Traveler Volt against the Volt on the Speed Traveler website.
I love that. But it is true. And it's funny that you're saying, I mean, it sounds like we're a bunch of like lunatics and we're against electric car and, we want to go back to the horse and buggy day.
Well, don't sell yourself short. You're a tremendous lunatic, but we have not.
But it's just really interesting that, I like there's a place for some electric vehicles for sure.
Right.
But 100% government mandate. I mean, it's just absolutely, it's like the lunatic train going full speed towards a brick wall.
And who's making the money on this?
Yeah,
because it's not you and I. It's not the guy working at McDonald's. It's not the guy working at JCPenney, the girl, it's not the boys and girls working at these mid-range jobs, which are not going to go away. That's for sure. You need to have these folks in these positions.
Yeah.
You need to have these folks that you got to be inspired by them by working so hard. Driving, again, I mentioned the Toyota because it'll last 500,000 miles,
right?
But you appreciate them keeping that car. I mean, I kind of remember, I won't get into that. That's a little bit too political, but it's just a challenge. And again, we should ask the viewers here, what's your opinion on these government mandates that are saying we have to be all electric here in California, and it's going to happen across the country at some point, I'm certain. And do you see a place for the electric car? Are you completely opposed to the electric car? Do you hate combustion engines? If so, turn off your stove, your gas burning stove.
But that's a good point. We'd love to hear from you. You can check us out on Instagram under the Speed Traveler. You can go to our YouTube page and leave us comments there, and we'll definitely not only will we answer, but the first 10 comments, we always send them a Speed Traveler t-shirt.
Yeah, and good, like us or not, you will get that t-shirt. I mean, I actually kind of like hearing of people's opposing positions. We have our opinion, and if everyone just agrees with us, great. But if you don't agree with us, I want to hear that too, because it might open up our eyes to something we didn't consider.
Yeah. So, but back to the subject, I think you mentioned who's making the money on this. I mean, it definitely smells of Chinese influence because they want to control our automotive industry. They're producing most of the batteries right now and most of the components because they've got no restrictions on the environment.
Right.
So
you bring up a good point. I mean, where are we going to mine cobalt and lithium here in the United States, and where are we going to get the permits to do that?
Exactly. Apparently, in just outside of Palm Springs, California, there's a huge supply of some of those minerals, but they won't issue any permits to dig on them. But I think that
in a state that is mandating we go all electric by 2035.
Yeah, exactly. But if you think about it, on a grand scale, we're giving up our control of our vehicle propulsion source, which just seems like not to get political, and we've said this 7 times, but it just seems like a terrible idea. Like, we have amazing resources here in the US. we could find something that's grown here or produced here
Right.
that we could use to power our cars.
Right.
So like you said, we're not 100% opposed to electric vehicles, but we don't want them crammed down our throat.
Exactly.
And the average person's not going to be able to buy a $60,000+ vehicle.
Right. Where's the parity in that?
Yeah, they're not going to be able to charge it if they live in an apartment. And, even worse, I think the politicians are stuffing their pockets with money coming ultimately from China through like 4 different straw companies in the US.
Right.
And social media is completely in on, EV.
Yeah.
So it's a tough road to fight against it. But, if you're a car guy, I mean, I like driving my combustion engine.
Yeah.
It's ironically, I use E85 on one of my cars and it works great.
It works great.
But
and it's super easy to produce.
But we're car guys, and I love getting in my car and driving to the mountains, and just for the purpose of driving. It's not transportation to and from. It's the enjoyment of driving.
Right.
And
it's a means of travel. Just thinking about that. And quite frankly, you bring up an interesting, I like electric cars in that they're fun there's really fun cars to drive. We recently did a little review on the i4 from BMW.
Right.
It's an absolute, they took the Tesla technology and the batteries. Tesla ended up making a fantastic battery. And now BMW's put a race car footprint around it, taking all that hundreds of years of race car performance building. And the i4, it's an incredible car to drive. But if you go for a drive out in the Mojave Desert, you can't go more than 150 miles away from Baker.
Yeah, that's so true.
You're stuck.
And the conspiracy, theorists are definitely saying, oh, well, that's on purpose so that you can keep people in certain areas and you don't let them travel. So, this has been a country based on travel, and that was the model, the Model A, I guess, originally.
Yes.
It allowed people for once to go on drives. And as I was telling you, like sometimes it's fun to so if you're a car guy and you've got a great car, it's fun to go take a drive. And I feel like the government's coming for us.
Yeah. I do too, and I'm a guy that is for the government. I mean, I think there should be controls in place. We should be, looking at things more important though, like healthcare and like infrastructure. How about the roads, that are, excuse my language, crap.
Yeah.
I mean, they're just crap because here in California, it's called Caltrans, and their budget for maintaining the roads is next to zero.
Yeah.
And the guy out in the middle of the road that's out there sweeping doesn't get paid as much as he should for a super high hazard job.
It's a very high hazard job.
It's just crazy. The roads here are crap. Our healthcare is crap.
Right.
And it's.
It's very
I'm going down the rabbit hole right now.
Yeah, we're going, but we would love engagement from our listeners. Hit us up on the Speed Traveler Instagram or YouTube, and we want your opinions on this because people are really fired up about EVs and government mandates.
Look at us right now.
Yeah, exactly. It's about to come to blows in the studio. Unfortunately, we're on the same side.
Oh, just punch a wall or something.
But I'm
going to go all Hulk Hogan on a chair and a table or something.
But getting back to our featured marque on the Speed Traveler Roadshow, we always talk about a featured brand every week. If you've missed our other episodes, we've done Ferrari and Porsche. You can go back and check those out on YouTube. But really quick, we're going to talk about the Cadillac. That's our featured marque. And they have the Lyric, which is an all-electric car.
Speaking of electric.
And ironically, they also have a 668 horsepower combustion engine, the CT5 Blackwing. So I think
available
it's cool.
in a manual. I love that.
6-speed manual. So how cool is that at least Cadillac is giving you the option?
Right.
And I think that's what we're saying.
Right. And it's, we'll go down this rabbit hole a little bit further with Cadillac. I love the fact that they've partnered up with Michael Andretti Racing, and they're making their way into Formula One. Hopefully we see them on the grid in 2025.
Right.
And, I think Cadillac's a great partner because a Formula One race car is hybrid technology effectively. And Cadillac's had great success with hybrid racing in Le Mans, LMP1 and 2,
Daytona,
Daytona. Yeah. So they've got great knowledge in that field. So I'm really excited about that.
All right. Well, we are going to take a quick break, and then we're going to come back and we're going to talk cars that you can buy, cars that we think Cadillacs that are going back up in value. So if you're a collector or into the collector car world, you're going to want to check this out. And this is the Speed Traveler Roadshow on KHTS Radio 1220.
All right, travelers, welcome back to the Roadshow, Cars and Coffee Edition here on KHTS Radio AM 1220 and FM 988
Sure about that,
98.1.
Chris?
Yeah, I had to think about that one. Of course, if you can't find us there, check us out on all of your favorite podcast networks and our social media at The Speed Traveler, YouTube channel, Instagram, Facebook, all that great stuff. And wow, Charlie, I got to take a breath there. Had to have a, just a quiet moment or two after our heated discussion on a subject that I think is very topical.
It sure is.
And but let's slide right into today's pick, the car of the week, and it's Cadillac, a brand near and dear to our hearts for basically our entire lives.
Yeah, we've had interaction with Cadillac our whole lives. My dad loved the Cadillac brand. Yeah. So we had a Coupe de Ville. We had the Eldorado, the 74 Eldorado convertible. What a great car.
Oh, that thing was a monster.
Yeah, it really was. But it's like you said, Cadillac's near and dear to our heart. We just cut off the, as you said, the soapbox of government mandated EVs. So we're going to probably talk about that every week now on the show, because whenever we bring that up at a coffee shop or a coffee bar, or a bar, people have really strong opinions on that. So we're definitely going to talk more about that in the future. So definitely tune in. But today this segment, we're going to talk a little bit about cars that we think that are going up in value. And we've bought and sold over 100 cars. We've made mistakes and we've done great. And we want to share with our listeners ways that you can go in there and find some deals on cars. And we talk a lot about a depreciation cycle. And that's when, for instance, we're going to talk about the 2011 Cadillac CTS-V wagon.
Manual.
And those really didn't go down in value too much. But to give you an example of a depreciation cycle, you could buy that car brand new. Let's say it was $60,000. And about 10 years later, maybe 8 years later, it dips down a little bit. And this is with any brand, Ferrari, Porsche. And then at some point, it stops going down and it starts going up.
And we're seeing that right now with the CTS, V wagon. I mean, if we look on Bring a Trailer, I think we just checked it out. As of this moment, there's I think 3 of them on Bring a Trailer, and they're all pushing the original purchase price number. Yeah. And if not going over that, especially the manual.
Right. And so we've done this a lot. And as I said, we've won and lost. And we've started narrowing down the formula is that you want to buy cars that are on their way back up in value because they'll just keep going and keep going. But that's a good example. CTS-V wagon, which is the V8 with a manual. In a station wagon.
In a station wagon. I mean, it's a monster of a wagon. It's a V8 600 or 500. I think that one had 580 horsepower. Right. You'll have to double check that for me. But it's just a monster of a station wagon. And leave it to Cadillac to take the family wagon, the family truckster, and turn it into a race car. I mean, it's funny. I don't know if they got the idea. Who got the idea from who? But Volvo started racing a station wagon in the British Touring Car Championship, and I think that was in the
50 or something.
Yeah, and I wonder if Cadillac kind of got inspired by that. Now that was a front-wheel drive station wagon. The Cadillac it's in my wheelhouse. It's rear-wheel drive. I like rear-wheel drive much better from a driving platform than a front-wheel drive. And there's arguments for both sides. I get it. In the snow and in adverse conditions, front-wheel drive is a little bit safer, or I should say, a little easier to drive.
Right.
But I mean, that monster of a wagon with extreme shaping. I mean, it looks aggressive. It sounds
sure
mean.
Yeah.
And when you look into the window in a car next to you and you see that driver moving the shift lever up and down in the H, it's really exciting. And that Cadillac, it's just a beast. And I got to say, it's interesting because Cadillac went away from the manual transmission for a number of years. I think they didn't make a manual transmission since, what was that, 88?
Oh, yeah.
And then they reintroduced it in the CTS in 2002. I guess it was launched 2003.
Right.
And that's when they first brought back a manual transmission again. And they've stuck with it to today's model.
Unbelievable. And just going back to the 2011 CTS-V wagon, that's one of Jay Leno's favorite cars.
It is.
Because he's like, when are they ever going to put, a V8 with 550 plus horsepower with a manual into a station wagon, and it's Cadillac. I mean, it's something that never is going to happen again.
Yeah. Well, you don't think it is, but some knucklehead's going to do it. It may not be Cadillac. It may not be, another brand, but But I love it. I love the fact that Jay Leno loves the car for the exact same reasons
Yeah.
that we do. And I guess that's why you do love this car.
Yeah, it's
You
just
know,
the
it is
joy
that-
of driving.
yeah.
It's so unique.
It's so unique. It's
So
so unique.
we'll talk prices just a little bit. There, as you mentioned, there was one live right now on the Bring a Trailer, and there's a few that recently sold. And they're in the lowest price one we saw. And if you don't know Bring a Trailer, it's an auction site where I think I saw they've got 800 auctions going live right now. Is that crazy?
Crazy. 800 auctions?
And it started as a passion. The guy who started it,
You had to bring a trailer.
Yeah, exactly.
It's called Bring a Trailer because if you wanted that car, you had to bring a trailer.
Now it's like the best of the best cars in the world are sold on Bring a Trailer. 800 live auctions. I mean, what a great job those guys have done.
Oh, they've done a fantastic job. And the thing is they really vet out the cars that are on their
They
auction
do.
blocks. So you not only get the auctioneer guarantee, but they also force the owner of the car that's going up for auction to take on some liability as well.
For sure.
So as
And
a consumer, as a buyer, you have some safety nets there,
Yeah,
which
you
is
do.
fantastic.
And the car's got to be in your name, and like they have a lot of good features there. But great company. But on Bring a Trailer, there is one live right now. We'll see what that sells for. Recently, one sold for $54,000. That had more miles, and that's not a bad price on that car.
Was that a manual or an automatic?
It was a manual.
It was a manual.
They've gone. The average price I'd say is about 60, 65. I remember when you wanted to buy one 5 or 6 years ago, they were about 40,000.
Yeah.
So they've already gone up 50% from 5, 6 years ago.
And everyone thought I was a nut job.
Yes. But you know what? Let's talk about some other cars that are a little bit more affordable. We had, and you could see, we've got a video on the Speed Traveler YouTube page on a 1976 Cadillac Coupe de Ville.
That was a fun video to make.
Yeah, it was a fun video to make. And the car is almost 20 feet long, and it's a two-door.
It's almost as big as our tow vehicle, which is
Right.
a long bed quad cab dually. You know, it's almost as it's an electric dually, and it's it's almost as long as that.
Yeah, it's unbelievable. And it's got a front, I'll call it a bench, but it's really more like a couch seat.
Yes,
And it's got a rear couch seat.
you can lay down in it.
Yeah, lay down and flat, as long as you're not over 6'3".
Right.
But really an incredible car. And we found one of those about 7 years ago for $11,000. It only had 20,000 miles on it. It was black. It was red. This is the car that's on YouTube. And they've gone up a little. I think you could be a little ahead of the market here that they're never going to make a 20-foot long two-door car ever again. If you've got the room to store it, that's a great pick. You can still find them for 15, 16, 18 grand.
Right. And there's also the Eldorado. I mean, that was kind of designed to go after, the later model was designed to go after BMW and the touring cars and Mercedes 190E.
Yep.
And really didn't work for that. But it's such a fun, it's a unique body shape. It's very unique. They kind of tried to throw it back to that 50s style a little bit, but squared it off for the 80s.
Yeah.
And that actually was a really fun car to drive too. I mean, it's very streamlined, no badging, no nothing.
Right.
Strangely enough, front wheel drive.
Yeah, I mean, that unfortunately was a byproduct of the 80s, but you're talking about the 82 to 85 Cadillac Eldorado Touring Coupe.
Yeah.
And as you mentioned, Touring Coupe it was supposed to compete with BMW and Mercedes.
Yeah.
Didn't totally work out too well, but it kind of led
But it's another Cadillac that we have a great video on, and you can check that out. And you can find those in good nick
for $10,000, maybe a little more. And it's a really rare car. I believe they only made 4,000 of them total. Of the Touring Coupes, they're not
And
fast.
that's an important thing to know, though. So to point out that there's only 4,000 of them, so that kind of makes it more of a collector.
Yeah.
So that anytime you can find a car like that, low mileage, low volume of low number of manufactured vehicles,
right?
You actually come up with a collector that in 10 years' time will really start to push the envelope on
and when you go to
value.
the fuel station, we still own that car. When you go to the gas station, people are like, "Oh, that thing's cool. I've never seen one of those." Because like you said, it doesn't have the typical chrome and Cadillac badging. Everything was made to look like a race car. So check it out. If you're online, you can go on to, I'm trying to think where I saw one recently. I believe it was at Hemmings.
It may be, I don't know, but we'll double check that. But I'm going to go off the beaten path here just for a moment, only because it's more of a question. But our good friend Tommy Kendall,
Right.
just notoriously fast race car driver, has the El Gallo.
Right.
Isn't that on an Eldorado?
It's not actually.
It's not.
It's
Okay.
not,
I thought it was on an Eldorado.
I think it's either a Pontiac or a Buick.
Buick, probably.
Yeah.
Buick makes sense.
But it's of that era.
It's that same
like
era,
a 20-foot long car.
Yeah.
And you really can't go wrong. And you know what, Chris? We should talk about, if you're looking for some insight on how to find these cars, one great way to do it is you can't really go to used car dealers, because obviously they're making their profit off that, and they've got to make something. The only exception being on the used car dealer would be if you find one that's been at a dealer for 90 days or 120 days, they may start getting a little motivated.
Right.
So then in that case, you can go to a dealer. But you're going to have to do your homework, but that's part of the fun, isn't it?
It really is. I mean, there's some great tools out there to use. We mentioned Bring a Trailer for kind of it's gone more high end than it has. You no longer really need to bring a trailer. You normally can just hire a shipping company and they'll bring it to your door, and you turn the motor over and go for a drive.
Right.
But like Car Gurus, Haggerty, there's a lot of great resources out there to kind of get evaluation on what you might have, help you get some data on what you're looking for. I mean, Wikipedia. I mean, not all of it's true,
right?
But it definitely points you in the right direction for some good data.
Yeah. No, I think that's a good point. Also, Craigslist. That's one of the.
Yeah.
If you are looking for a bargain, and as we say on the Speed Traveler Roadshow all the time, part of the fun is in the hunt. And you could go on to Craigslist. You can go to Los Angeles, for instance, search cars for sale by owner. And you could now go to the left, pull down the menu to use map, and you could expand the map to the whole country. And you could find cars for sale by owner there. And a lot of times people are like, okay, I'm done. We've bought a lot of cars, also on eBay. Where people are like, okay, I'm tired of trying to sell it. I want to sell it in 7 days. And you can find great bargains there. And that's really part of the fun. And you're always going to do much better there than going to a dealer and paying full retail.
Absolutely. And, a lot of people might say, hey, what about LKQ, which is like a junkyard auction house. They kind of sell everything on site that they get in there. There's other, like Copar is another auction, vehicle auction site. And the thing is, that's a situation where you can find some great deals. And if you're a project guy or girl, and you want to build, like our friend Bianca, she loves building her Subarus.
Oh yeah, she does. Sky.
Yeah.
And her name's Sky, but she goes by what? Bianca?
Bianca something. I didn't know if we should use her actual name. That's why I went with the Instagram.
Oh, sorry.
But,
sorry.
I don't know. I don't
sorry,
care.
Sky.
Sorry, Sky. Sky, we're very sorry. If you like building your own cars, you can find some cheap cars there if you are into the project. But it's funny. I mean, right now I'm looking at a project car that I'm looking at buying from someone that had it as a project car, and they just ran out of steam.
Yeah.
So
that's a really good tip for people, is that you can find people have done a lot of work, but they're not all the way there. They're 90% of the way there, and they spent more than they ever want to admit.
Right.
And that's a great way to buy a car.
And
if you're a little handy.
You have to be handy. They will not get what they're asking for because it's an incomplete car to an extent, or I should say unfinished,
right?
But life happens. I mean, this one car I'm looking at, they ended up having a second baby that they were not planning on.
Yeah,
and it's working into our favor.
And also, we've been on the other end of that.
Yeah.
We had bought a Jaguar. Remember, I was going to put a V8 in it.
Oh,
we did all this work. I spent all this money, and it just wouldn't work. We had an issue with the wiring. Ultimately, we found someone that was willing to buy it from us at a big discount.
Right.
But I was happy as heck to sell that car.
Just get rid of it.
Yeah.
The headache got moved on.
Yeah.
So, it happens. We've kind of gotten off. Are we still going to talk about like some current model Cadillacs?
You know what? I think we covered if you're looking for interesting Cadillacs to buy that we think are going up in value, take a look at the Cadillac Coupe de Villes of the mid 70s.
Yep.
Big cars, 2 doors. They're never going to build that again.
I like the CTS series from the early 2000s.
V series, and also the second generation one. I really liked the looks. It was really sharp. 2009 to 2014,
and that came with a V6
or
engine.
a V8. Yeah,
but I prefer the V6 just from one for using less gas. Two, it's actually lighter car and more fun to drive. So I really like the 6-cylinder motor over the 8-cylinder motor.
Yeah, and if you could, and to that, we're going to talk about the current model. There's the CTS or CT5.
CT5.
And CT4, you like the CT4 with the 6-speed in the
six-cylinder. I like that. Yeah, and also I like the body styling. The CT5 is it's more of a coupe style. It's got a longer fastback, kind of like the old Mustang Mach 5.
It's a little bigger car. Right.
It's a bigger car. It's available in the 6-cylinder, but the manual is only in the 8-cylinder, which is the Blackwing.
Yeah. The CT5 Blackwing. And you know what? We're talking about values and stuff. You're probably never going to go wrong on that car.
No.
Because it's a 660 horsepower car with a manual in a V8, which they're not going to, in theory, they may not make anymore.
Yeah.
So that car's going to be worth their $100,000 though.
They're $100,000 right now, but I think, and that's one of those cars that will depreciate over the next 4 or 5 years, but there will be an upswing in its value, I think,
Absolutely.
Because, we're not going to be on an electrical grid.
Right.
It's just no way.
Yeah.
But there'll be an upswing on that. But I mean, again, the CT4 Blackwing with 6-cylinder with the manual. It's a 4-seater, 4-door.
Fun car.
Really fun car. It still has, what is the horsepower number? I can check that.
Yeah, it's still a good horsepower, and it's just a fun car to drive. So we're all on the Speed Traveler. We're all about having fun in your car. And it's not just transportation from point A to point B. And I think that's the problem with the world right now. And that's the problem with really like an elite few on the coast and in DC and in New York City. They don't get in cars and drives. They can't. They've got to take Ubers and they've got to take, but it doesn't work if you're in a place that's a little bit more spread out.
Right. Yeah, we don't have the infrastructure, the public transportation here in California that everyone, that California thinks it has. I mean, don't get me wrong. I love Amtrak. I love all the Sprinter and coaster light rail routes, but they're far and few between. And the buses,
Yeah,
I'm not getting on a bus.
And there's a lot of public trains I'm not getting on either.
Right. California is still a car culture. It was built on the car culture, and it's a great place to have fun.
All right. Well, with that said, we are going to take a quick break. We're going to come back for our final segment. We're going to talk a little F1 again, the preview for the Mexican Grand Prix, and talk about some other fun road trips we've taken on the Speed Traveler. You're listening to KHTS Radio AM 1220, and this is the Speed Traveler Roadshow. We'll be right back.
All right. Well, welcome back to the final segment of the Speed Traveler Roadshow. This is the Cars and Coffee edition, episode number 11, brought to you or listening to us live on KHTS Radio AM 1220, FM 98.1, your favorite podcast platforms, and of course, all of our social media and YouTube channels at The Speed Traveler. And our final segment, Charlie, we're going to talk a little bit about F1 coming up, the Mexican Grand Prix, and then our videos, some of our videos and things to check out on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, you know what? Last weekend, you called it pretty correctly in that when you mentioned Ferrari, you thought Ferrari was going to do well at the Grand Prix of the United States. I thought you were crazy. In qualifying, they did do well. But in the race, not as much.
Not as much. They faded. They got a penalty. Carlos Sainz moved up in the championship point standings because he was upgraded to 4th place, I believe, in the rache.
Right.
Lewis Hamilton, who was relegated from 2nd place to the back of the field, that hurt him a lot because Checo Perez, not having the race he should have, still moved up in the points. But I think the points gap now, as it stands, is only 39 points between Checo and Lewis Hamilton for that second place and second and third place.
Yeah, and along those lines, we're talking Sergio Perez, Red Bull Formula One. The Grand Prix of Mexico is this weekend. It's the traditional Halloween Dia de los Muertes.
I couldn't say that 5 times fast.
Weekend. So that's what's coming up this Saturday. The race is on Sunday. And what do you think for the race?
Well, it's going to be exciting. The fans are going to be crazy for Checo, even though his performances haven't been great. He's still probably their number one sports figure.
Absolutely is.
And he is sitting in 2nd place in the championship. So he's doing the job for the team in that respect. I think we'll see a different Checo at this race. I think Red Bull, as a team, are going to really back him. I mean, they kind of have to. They've got to kind of revitalize. His contract's good. He's coming back next year. He's a Red Bull driver next year. So I think we're going to really see a lot out of Checo in this race.
Yeah, and to that point, if you don't listen to or watch a lot of Formula One, Max Verstappen with the Red Bull team has just destroyed the competition this year. He's teammates with Sergio Perez. So they're going to go, Max has already wrapped up the championship. So they're going to go into this race with Sergio. I agree with you. They're going to throw everything in the kitchen sink his way to try and get him a win.
Yeah.
But, the McLarens have been doing great as of late.
And look at the Mercedes.
The Mercedes has been great. Lewis Hamilton loves that track.
Yep.
And he's going to have a chip on his shoulder after getting disqualified last weekend.
Right. And I wonder, coming up to the Mexican Grand Prix, I wonder if those two relegations of Charles Leclerc and Lewis Hamilton, if they're not reversed, I have a feeling there's going to be a lot of legal battling about that. So things might change there. If you're into it, stay tuned for that. But the Ferraris, they show good pace. Single lap pace. It's got a long straightaway.
Yeah.
It's
low speed corners with long straightaways.
And that suits the Ferrari. It's those middle high speed turns that really allowed, I would say, Max Verstappen to get back into the race at COTA.
Right.
Not going to have that same advantage.
No, they
here
won't.
in Mexico.
So quickly, your picks for this weekend. We actually did pretty well last weekend. I picked Lando Norris to win at COTA. He almost pulled it off. He led a lot of the race.
He really did.
You picked the Ferraris.
I picked George Russell. I kind of went for a dark horse.
The car was the exact right pick because Mercedes was fast.
Yeah.
But George just had an off weekend.
Well, he had a little bit of an off weekend, and strategies didn't play into his favor. But I mean, again, speaking of, like you said, chip on the shoulder. Mercedes is going to have a chip on their shoulder. They're going to be hungry. They're going to be aggressive. And Toto Wolff, if you have any opinion on him whatsoever, he's going to throw the proverbial kitchen sink at it. So it's going to be.
You're taking a Mercedes victory. I mean, it's easy to pick Max Verstappen in the Red Bull, so we try never to do that. But your pick is?
I went first last week.
All right, so you went first last week. I'm going to go back to the well with Lando Norris and the McLaren, only because I think they've been right there in the last 3, 4, 5 races. And one of these days, it's going to be his day. I think I'm going back to Lando Norris and the McLaren.
It's not a bad pick, and I almost want to pick Oscar Piastri, and I normally don't pick Lewis Hamilton, but you know what? I'm going for Lewis Hamilton this weekend.
Great choice.
I think that's where the challenge is going to come from. Lando's driving great, Oscar Piastri's driving great. But, Lewis Hamilton is the wily old veteran. I think we're going to see some of that veteran gamesmanship.
All right. Well, that is our F1 preview for the Mexican Grand Prix. And quickly before we go, for those of you new to the Speed Traveler, you could check out a bunch of videos we made. We made a video on the 1976 Cadillac Coupe de Ville.
Coupe de Ville.
And it's our #1 video. It probably has the least amount of production value.
A phone.
Yeah.
And a lot of background noise.
A phone and a tripod. And then we've created videos where we spent tens of thousands of dollars. And they don't get that type of viewership. So you could check out what we were talking about today, which is the 76 Cadillac Coupe de Ville and the 83 Cadillac Eldorado Touring Coupe. On our YouTube page, you can see all the videos, which is the Speed Traveler.
All right. Is that it for us today?
I think we're done.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, thanks so much for listening to us here today on KHTS Radio, AM 1220, FM 98.1. Find us on Instagram and YouTube at thespeedtraveler.com. And you can listen to all of our shows on your favorite podcast networks. Thanks for listening, guys, and we'll see you next week.